Welcome again to our webinar, Beacon Solutions ROI to the Core. My name is Carrie Gillis, and I am the Director of Marketing here at Core Apps. Jay Tokosh will be presenting today. He is the CEO of Core Apps. And the presentation today will be about 40 to 45 minutes, and we'll leave the last 15 to 20 minutes for questions. So if you could just hold off on questions till the end, that would be great, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. So over to you, Jay.
Hi, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning to some of you, afternoon to others that are joining us today on our first foray into doing a webinar. I've done many of them before, but it's always been for someone else. And so now we've been able to set this up and do this for ourselves. We plan to move into that realm where we're trying to bring about technology for the industry with a couple of these webinars a year. And it might not always be someone from Core Apps presenting on these. I have some consultants, friends in the industry that will also talk about different topics that we keep hearing from our customers that are important to them, and in a way to help them, enhance their events as we move forward here. So thank you for being here for our first one and joining us today. We are going to talk about iBeacons. This was one of the topics that we constantly hear questions about. How does it work? What does it do? How can it help us? What's the cost and all of those things? And so that's what I'm going to jump right in here and do. I do want to also tell you that we're going to talk specifically about iBeacons as opposed to Beacon Solutions, which there are other products out there that do things. However, for the most part, I'll try and point out the differences as we do go through here, but our presentation today is really going to focus on iBeacons. All right? So first, let's start a little bit about our background, because some of you don't know us, haven't worked with us before, but we started in 2009, and since that time frame, we've grown quite a bit. We have a little over 700 clients globally, done about 1,200 or so apps each year. Generally about the top 250 shows that are out there, we do about 60% of them with our event technology, one way or the other, with the different software that we do. But going to focusing on the Beacon technology, or iBeacons themselves, in 2012 we were the first ones to deploy Beacon technology, and we did it for AEM with a show called IQ. There was about 500,000 square feet down in Kentucky, and they had an indoor portion to their event as well as an outdoor portion to their event. And what we did there was we were there to set and look at traffic analysis as well as indoor positioning. And so we went down there and we did that, and it was very successful for us. So I forgot to mention that actually back in 2009, when we first started into this, we were one of the first ones to do indoor positioning. We did it back then using the building or the venue's Wi-Fi system that was actually set up inside of there. It didn't give us down to where we can go today into 1 to 3 meters or be able to tell someone that they're outside of a 10 by 10 booth. But back then, we were able to tell you within about 50 feet of the actual space itself, generally where you were, with a big blue dot as opposed to a little blue dot that we can get to today. And then moving on, in 2013 at CES, we were the third company to successfully actually deploy iBeacon technology. So in 2012, we did a beacon technology that used a combination of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to do that. And we had to set up many of these devices. But then in 2013, we were strictly on doing iBeacon technology, and we worked with a company there called Radius Networks, who supplied the actual beacons and hardware from that side. So that's a little bit about us. Real quick with me, I'm the CEO of Core Apps. I've been talking this tech since 2009, doing education seminars with IAEE, TSNN, CISO, you name it, to try and get out there. I like to do these things and talk about technology and really how it can help your event, cut your costs, provide a great experience, and that's always been our goal as we've moved forward here as Core Apps and doing the things that we do. All right, so let me jump in and let's talk about what an iBeacon is. First off, it's an Apple product. Don't be afraid of that. That has been adopted by Android as well, so it's not just while it is an Apple product, it is something that others are sharing and is out there. It is a technology that runs on, you'll see the term BLE, which means Bluetooth Low Energy. What that means is it's not that it's low energy, it means that it doesn't take a lot of energy to actually power the devices that are there. But it's Bluetooth that gets turned on in your phone, and as you know, many of you, you're using Bluetooth for either running music through speakers or maybe your headset still inside your car because you have to be hands-free. There's many other uses for Bluetooth within your particular phone, but today that was one of the ways that they were able to set this particular technology up. And if you see that term BLE, don't be afraid, that just means Bluetooth, okay? The platforms that are available today, it's available in iOS at about 100%. Pretty close to it. Some of the older versions don't really have it in there, but the newer ones do. And one of the nice things about Apple there is they've built in a lot of things to take care of interference that can happen, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward there. But then on the Android side, about 80% of the Android platforms actually also have iBeacon technology built into them. And we're going to talk about how this all plays together as we move forward here inside this presentation. So a little bit more about how it works. Realistically, they've developed it so that there are 3 different ranges here. You've got an immediate range. That immediate range is anywhere from 1 to 10 meters. So 3 meters is roughly about where a 10 by 10 booth spans out. Near it goes to about 30 meters is near. So near can range from 30 meters all the way back to, 10 to 5 meters, if you will. And then far goes all the way up to 70 meters. Now, there are different iBeacons. I'm going to show you some pictures of these as we move forward, but there are different iBeacons out there that actually cover certain distances. I know we use a combination of 2 different ones, and I'll show you some pictures of those. But the fact is that there are some beacons that are actually designed to be better for far, and there are some iBeacons that are actually designed to be better for intermediate, etc. So you have these 3 different levels that are there. They will pretty much cover an event with what you're trying to do. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how those ranges all work together as we go into the presentation deeper. So here's some of those pictures that I promised you. The one Qualcomm down here at the bottom, the blue one, if you can see my cursor, is actually one of the ones that we use there. There's another big white one that we use for the long range that kind of looks like this right here. And these particular beacons that are here can come in all different shapes and sizes. They generally, we're going to talk about power a little bit more, but they generally run on their own power, and it doesn't take a lot to make that happen. These things can be, as you can see, this could be on a keychain that's down here. This could be hanging off of something. This is pasted to the wall, could be used for, with a little sticky pad on the back end, or maybe, some other way to put it up there. They can be hidden very easily. These don't have to be out in the open. They're using a radio frequency, so you're not really worried too much about blocking them. But these particular devices can also have sponsorship logos built on top of them. So you could also, as part of your event, and you wanted to put these out there, these things can have sponsorship logos. I've seen it with Coca-Cola logos on them. I've seen them with Cummins logos on them, things of that nature. So think about that as an option for sponsorship. So let's talk a little bit about each one of these beacons and some of the different properties of them. They're basically, the power is very small. It's a watch cell to a AA battery. And they can last anywhere from 6 months all the way up to 2 years without being changed. Now, there are also ones that are plug-ins, and they do plug directly into an electrical outlet, but you don't have to have those. We tend to like the ones that don't require any electricity and that actually use the watch cell or the AA batteries. One of the nice things about this is that some of the management tool is that it does give us a battery status, so we can find out if a battery does need to be changed in a particular beacon. It will let us know that. So that's one of the good things about that. On the frequency side, iBeacons, yep, they're standalone devices. They give out what they call a UUID number, which is a universal unique identifier. Just think of it as a number that each one has on its own that it's going to push out, okay? And that is what the actual phones are going to be reading off of that. It does use Bluetooth 4.0 or greater for the low energy side. There are some things with regards to interference that we run into. Microwave ovens, for example. While that may not be much for everybody's event, but if you're doing a food event like a lot of the ones that we do, there are microwaves on the show floor, and they will cause interference. People themselves will cause interference. So one of the things that is built into the development iOS, if you will, or Android's development side is the ability to detect and run and clear out some of that interference so that you do get a better range and it is able to actually come up with that, okay? Signal direction on iBeacons. It's all around. It doesn't go in one particular direction. It is a directional thing that is all around, so it's sort of like in the round, if you will. It's completely circular. We mentioned about the ranges before with intermediate, near, and far. Privacy on these particular things is an interesting part, and it's one of the things that you have to consider. So the way that it happens is that there's going to be a point where the application is going to ask the user about sharing, and the user needs to say yes. It's called location services if you're using an Apple phone or an Android phone that will come up and prompt you for that. But the nice thing about the privacy side here is that it can only allow you to get what you want it to get, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But so if you don't share certain things, it's not going to push that out there. Keep this in mind. Over here on the security side, we're going to talk a little bit about that. There's also some steps that need to be taken, and all phones that are using Bluetooth can actually read this. So while I mentioned before that Apple and Android are the two platforms that have utilization with this particular technology, the iBeacons themselves will measure other phones that are using and have their Bluetooth on. They just can't communicate with it. So for example, if we're out there and we're looking at trying to track, let's say the traffic on the show floor or traffic at a particular event, we can register other people's phones that have Bluetooth on, but we're not going to know anything about that particular person, maybe their profile information or things of that nature, but they will get seen. As I mentioned before, what happens is that it does read a UUID, that unique identifier. On the security side, we have to be careful. There are things that happen where we can encrypt them. Okay, there are encryption methods that can go on with that. There's also, you know, one of the things that we ran into with CES was the fact that one of the companies had gone in and spoofed a bunch of iBeacons. And what that means is that they pretended to be an iBeacon. They went in and they were able to get into the software that Radius had, and they were able to look at it and then pretend like they were an iBeacon and complete the process of a game that had been set up within 15 minutes. The fact is that on the security side of this, it really didn't matter. And that's what we make sure that happens when we set these things up, because realistically, they didn't get anybody's names. They didn't get any confidential information. All they were able to do was actually complete the game within 15 minutes. And you might say, oh, well, that's terrible. But the fact is that at the end of the day, they had to still go to collect their prizes. And when we checked the person for their prizes, if they completed the entire game within 15 minutes, we knew that it was spoofed, because it would have taken someone to walk the show floor and to visit each one of the areas to collect their token much longer than 15 minutes. So while they did hack that and were able to do that, and certainly that could have been encrypted, it really didn't matter because no one really cared. The delivery on this is a radio frequency. Just like Wi-Fi or anything else, it's a Bluetooth is a radio frequency. And here's the thing, iBeacons don't contain any content, excuse me. They are dumb devices. All they're doing is pushing out a unique identifier that the phone reads. And what happens here is that the phone takes in that unique identifier and it triggers the mobile application on the phone to do something for you. So basically, the beacon communicates one way, right? It communicates with the app one way, and the app doesn't communicate with the beacon. So the beacon shoots a number to it, the phone, the mobile app reads the number, says trigger to do this. Maybe that's push out a text, maybe that's push out video, maybe that's push out documents. There's a lot of things that it could be doing, but essentially the mobile app tracks that, and the mobile app brings that in, and it triggers the mobile app to do something. The beacon is a dumb device just pushing out a particular number. Hopefully you understand what I mean by that. Here's some other technologies that sort of get convoluted when you're talking about beacon technology, and I wanted to just kind of go over some of these things that are here. So you hear GPS, that's global positioning. GPS is real simple, right? Just think of that as when you're going to do your directions in your car, or you're using Google Maps or something of that particular nature, right? It's an outdoor function versus an indoor function. The iBeacon is really more of an indoor function. Not saying you can't use it outdoors, but it's positioning down to an immediate 1 to 3 meters, where GPS is positioning outdoors, and when you get inside, it wouldn't really work there. So that's a global positioning system that's there. iBeacon versus NFC, which is near field communication. If some of you have maybe used this in your lead thing, there's a company out there called ITN that does registration, and they're very high on near field communication and NFC. Apple just recently put NFC chips inside of their phones, so they have the ability to go out and use that particular technology right directly from the version 6 phones, and probably moving forward they'll keep that inside there. But near field communication is really short. If you think of that, the ranges that I gave you before, it's very much like what you would see with an immediate range that's there. You do need a device, you do need an NFC device, you do need a reader to make that all happen, as opposed to the iBeacon, which has multiple ranges and does not need all of those other devices except for the actual iBeacon itself. RFID, that's been around this industry for years, radio frequency identification. It's one of those particular technologies that you can get 100% if you're trying to track traffic analysis, because you would put an RFID chip inside of everybody's badge and then have RFID readers across the board that's there. It's a very expensive technology compared to what iBeacon can be, and which is a very low-cost technology, and we'll get into that in a little bit more here too. But the thing about RFID is that it is something that could be 100%, but it has to be 100% in order for it to be successful. Some of the things that we've done with working with groups that have used RFID and beacon technology there for floor analytics, we've actually seen, if you're looking for a particular area to see what the traffic looked like during a particular day, that it actually would only show trends on the iBeacon side, and on the RFID side show exacts, but the trends and the exacts actually match. So if you were looking to see if traffic in a particular area was heavy at a particular time of day, both RFID and the iBeacon showed the same thing, and the iBeacon was much less expensive. WLAN is really Wi-Fi, and one of the things about iBeacon is it doesn't need its own special network to run like Wi-Fi does, and it doesn't cost you anything extra from a Wi-Fi setup out there on at a particular venue and paying for Wi-Fi, so you don't have that expense from that particular standpoint. over on there. But yeah, and deployment is much faster with iBeacon than it would be if you had to set up a bunch of Wi-Fi hubs and tune them to be able to do that. That's one of the nice things about iBeacons, is that across the board here, setup time is null compared to any one of these particular technologies that are here. What does it take to make it work? And these 4 things, no matter what you do, are the 4 things that it takes to make it work. The first is you need an iBeacon. That's real simple. iBeacons are inexpensive. They cost anywhere from $5 today up to about $50. That's without having, sponsorship logos or anything like that on them and just buying them out there. There's a bunch of different people who manufacture these today in all shapes and sizes, but they're very inexpensive, and you do need an iBeacon. The other thing you need is the mobile app software. That mobile app software is going to work with the iBeacon technology that Apple's developed that runs on both Android and the Apple platforms. That mobile app software is going to ask you a few things. The first thing it's going to do is make sure that you have your Bluetooth turned on. The second thing is that you're also going to have the location services turned on for the app. And those things will both be prompted for you there. If you have all 4 of these things, then this will make your iBeacon solution work for you. One of the nice things about this particular solution is that it is being used everywhere. We're seeing it today at the ballparks. The MLB app, I was just out at Dodger Stadium last week catching a game and pulled up the MLB app, and it started hitting me with different things with regards to the iBeacon and what they're trying to do with pushing information to you while you're at the game. Macy's, they were the third, one of the top 3. It was Apple, Macy's, and then us who had first deployed this, so Macy's is all over it. If you have a Macy's app or you're using the ShopKick app, let's see, Starbucks is using it. There's a bunch of others. And Target, I know if you walk into a Target store and you have the app on and you have those location services and Bluetooth, you'll get hit with things welcoming you to Target. They can also push coupons to you. There's a bunch of different other things. The nice thing about this, though, folks, is that this technology is being used outside of our industry. So introducing it into our industry and introducing it to both your exhibitors, your attendees, the actual event organizers themselves, hopefully they've seen it or heard about it. It's not completely, foreign to them. It's not a new technology that they haven't heard of before. And if the users already understand this, it makes it much easier for us to take them through the experience inside of one of your events that's there. It's one of the great things that I like about this. And I see more and more retail at the airports. I think Boston has this hooked up. There's a few others that are out there that are actually using this. So that'll help us with the education portion of being able to get that into your events. Now, iBeacon has a bunch of different capabilities. I just kind of pulled out the 4 top ones that are here. These are the most popular ones today. And realistically, when you look at proximity marketing and you look at micro-location targeting, they seem very similar. But the way that we look at it is like this. The proximity marketing are where iBeacons trigger an action that's a very wide range, if you will. So for example, if you walked into an event and you had it at your registration area and it was branching out to the entire registration area, a welcome message to your particular event. Hey, thank you for attending today. If you've already registered, if you've pre-registered, go to the left to pick up your badge. If you haven't registered, go to the right. That would be maybe more of an idea of proximity marketing because it's more of a wide range. The micro-location targeting would be more drilling down to they're standing in front of a particular exhibitor's booth. They walk into that booth and the exhibitor has 3 different products. They have a boat, an oar, and life raft. And there would be a iBeacon behind each one of them. And when they walked up to those areas, that is a micro location, and they're going to get a message about the boat, or they're going to get a message about the oars, or they're going to get a message about the life raft. Hopefully that scenario that I painted for you really gives you an idea of what these iBeacons are capable of doing on those particular capabilities. Indoor mapping, real simple. Determining indoor location, pinpointing on a map with a blue dot or something of that nature exactly where you're standing. Everything that the iBeacon has to do centers around location to begin with. So what this has the ability to do is actually pinpoint an indoor location of where you are. And sometimes that takes quite a few iBeacons to make sure that that works, depending on the size of your show, but it is absolutely capable, and it's one of those things that is a big wow factor. Gamification. We've used this quite a bit in the gamification side. This seems to be one of those areas that can really deliver a nice, robust, content out to people, or just really enhance your show. It's one of those things that with a game you could do a lot of different things with the iBeacon. One of the things that we did out at CES was a sort of like a scavenger hunt, and it had the premise of like a Geiger counter, if you will. So when you got close to the range where the iBeacon was, and what they did was they set up a bunch of these throughout the show, that's a very large show, in areas that they felt like in the past hadn't gotten a lot of great traffic. So they wanted to draw traffic to those areas. They created the game, nice little graphics all over the place. And then what happened was that you as a user, as you were getting close to the area, it was telling you that you were getting closer. So when you got to sort of the far range, if you will, it said you're within distance. And as you got to the intermediate range, it said that you're getting closer, you're getting warmer. And then as you got to the intermediate range, it actually pushed a token to you. And when you collected all the tokens, you were eligible for a prize. And you went up and you got a CES backpack up at the news booth, I think is where they had those. It's a great game. Like I said, many different options from that standpoint, anywhere from doing a tour to other things, and I'll explain some of our offerings as we move forward here. But these are the most popular capabilities. So our offering, real-time analytics. We have the ability using iBeacon to be able to go out there, set it up, whether it's at a session, whether it's at your expo. We can drill this out to the entire expo. We can nail it down to pavilions. We can make it so that it's a wide range rather than worrying about getting down to sort of that immediate range, if you will, to give you traffic analytics. And this little graphic over on the side kind of gives you an idea here of both that and the indoor location pinpointing where users are. So the red dots that are there are actually showing the actual iBeacon locations, and then what we've got with the blue dot is where the person was actually standing here. So real-time analytics gives you the ability to pinpoint, what your traffic flow is like at a particular time, at a particular day, in a particular area. You can see those in up to 15-minute intervals if you want to. It's all recorded. It could be something that an exhibitor would be interested in from their booth standpoint to know how much traffic went by them or visited their booth. For those of you who have an expo where you're selling booths at different costs across the board here, this might be something that you can actually, put out there and, measure that and then come back and justify the cost that you have for there. Things of that, analysis. But I will tell you this, from a real-time analytics, that's a really nice product solution that we can use with iBeacon. Indoor location has a fantastic wow factor. When we've done this for shows before, though, I don't know that it has the greatest ROI. And I'm just being honest, because I'd love to sell you this product and this solution all day long, But the fact is that on the indoor location, there's really not a lot of ROI that comes out of that, right? I mean, it's a wow factor that I can show somebody on an interactive floor map where they sit, but it really doesn't provide any return on investment to do that. And setting up something like that can be quite expensive, not as expensive as maybe, let's say, like RFID or one of the other technologies, but it's still not going to be something that where if you had a floor and you said, listen, my floor is 100,000 square feet, and I just want to cover it to do maybe analytics and some other things, we could probably do that with about 10 iBeacons, and it can be deployed in less than 30 minutes. Where if you wanted me to get down to being able to do indoor location at a 10 by 10 booth, that now may take, you know, a couple of hours to make sure that that's all working correctly, and it would be more expensive. So I just want to point that out to you. Whoops, jumped one. Over here, this seems to be the most popular use of iBeacons today from our standpoint and what's available out there. And the first one is gamification. I mentioned the scavenger hunt example before, but tours. Being able to do something like a museum tour that would take people around to maybe a new product showcase, right? If you have something like that, or maybe the exhibitors who have new products, we set them up in a tour, some sort of sponsorship that's there. When the people hit each one of the exhibitors that they're trying to go to, and they get into the range of that particular exhibitor or that particular new product, it kicks off an audio file that would play and discuss the product. It may kick off a video file that would play and show a demonstration of the product that's there. Now, of course, we build this so that it could also be used outside of just the event that's there, but the idea is that the iBeacon would trigger something like that going off on your phone. Market messaging by far takes the less to set up. It's the easiest to sell. We have customers selling this for about $2,000 a piece as a sponsorship for an audio or text message that's there. Basically what happens, as you can see in this example that's here, you get close to a particular booth and boom, it pops off and it gives you a text message. And that could be maybe something like an electronic coupon offering someone a free t-shirt if they came by the booth, or a discount or something of that nature. It may kick off an audio file that's talking about the particular exhibitor itself, or a video as well. Could push out documents like handouts, things of that nature. One of the things that we did when we set this up was we set up a completely administratable, from the standpoint of the exhibitor themselves, sending them a link, they go in and can actually administrate their message and what they want to do, pay for it, and do all of that and manage it all themselves right inside that particular portal, and get their own stats and everything else after it's over with. So basically you're pointing them at to a link, and they're coming in and actually you know, creating their own marketing messaging. They can change it every day. The web portal is very robust and it works very well. But these offerings on this particular page we have found to be the best return on investment for using the iBeacon today, and it goes back to those other capabilities that I showed you on a slide a little while ago. But here's the thing, I've heard a lot, I've seen a lot, I've been out there, and the fact is that you know, like this dark alley that we have here, all this hype about the solutions that we've seen out there simply don't work. And on the face of it, while session check-in sounds fantastic, it's really not a good use of this particular technology. And the reason why, it's not 100%. Remember, I told you, it only operates with Apple and Android, and only 80% of the Android. What about the people who have Windows phones or some other particular platform that is out there? There are plenty of those people who are using that. What about the people who don't have their phone or don't turn on their Bluetooth? Don't answer the message that says, hey, we'd like to use location services. They're not going to get picked up. And session check-in needs to be 100%. So that requires you to have two different processes, right? That goes back to the old paper days where they're filling out a piece of paper and putting that in. And then you also have the people who are using their phone and doing it. Now you're into two processes. That defeats the whole purpose of why you wanted to do it electronically in the first place. And what we've actually found when people are doing this is they get duplication. The person who is so worried about getting their CEU credits fills out the paper and also answered the question that they got on the phone as well at the same time. And now you've got to have someone sit down and dedupe all of that, which actually requires more time than if you had it just on paper and you went through that and created your process. So session check-in is really not a good use of this particular technology. Anyone who's trying to sell that to you, think about the actual scenario of how it works with session check-in, and you'll understand that it's just not really capable of doing that. The other thing that we've heard touted out there is users seeing other people in a proximity, right? Kind of like Foursquare. And while I can't see your hands, I'd like to know how many of you actually use Foursquare today still, right? It was a great idea, great technology, but the idea of knowing where you were and other people knowing where you were, it didn't go over so well. And it's sort of a violation of privacy. So what we found is that with something like that going on, people tend to turn it off and they avoid the contact of that. They don't want other people to know where they are. This is really not a good use of that particular technology today, as it's violating people's privacies. There's other better ways to network with people around you and what you want to do, and we have a lot of options from that side. But I really don't see this particular technology as a good one. I think what we've seen is that people just got pinged and pinged and pinged and pinged, and they actually ended up turning it off because they didn't want to get pinged anymore from people who were in the area where they were. The last thing I've kind of seen out there has been head count, and you know, that again, just like session check-in, it's not 100%. If you're doing head count, you really want to use RFID. You want to use something that's going to be more of 100%. And iBeacons are not there today to be able to do that for you. So if you see these types of technologies and people that are pushing that, you realize that one, they don't understand the industry, and two, they really just don't understand the technology that's available out there and how it all works. Benefits. So the benefits to the iBeacon side is low cost. I discussed that with you. It's about $5 up to about $50 depending on the iBeacon itself. There's nothing wrong with the $5 iBeacons. Okay, I don't want you to think because I need to spend more money because I'll get a better one. That's not true. Okay, realistically, what happens is the ones that are more expensive tend to be more plugged in. They tend to be ones that are doing far ranges as opposed to the intermediate range. Even the ones that we use, the little blue ones there, can be set anywhere from immediate range all the way up to near range within that particular iBeacon, and those cost about $5 a piece. So you don't have to buy the most expensive ones. There are combinations of ones that you'll end up using possibly, depending on what it is that you're trying to do and accomplish with your solution. Deployment time is very, very quick. These things can be just dropped off at a desk as you're walking at a particular pace in order to make your solution work. The deployment time is very, very easy. It will see all phones with Bluetooth. I have this as a benefit because if you're trying to do traffic analysis, realistically, you want to capture as many people as you can to get a good trending, right? But the Bluetooth itself may not be able to communicate with all of them, but I still want to get numbers. I still want to see how that's looking. And so that is one of the nice things. One of the other great things about this technology is, and we've talked about the capabilities, is its multiple features. Many of the other technologies that I mentioned before don't have all those multiple features, right? GPS has one feature. It tells you where your location is. Doesn't do anything else from that, right? RFID, you don't see multiple features from that. And this is one of the great things about this particular technology is it does have multiple features. Can do gamification. You can do the indoor position. Can do traffic analysis. You can do message marketing. So it has quite a bit. It is in the top app, in the top app platforms that are out there, Apple and Android. That's another great thing about it. Those are the two top platforms today that your users are all using there. I wish it was in every one of them, but it isn't. And the fact is that I mentioned before is that the education process is going to be shortened quite a bit because we have people like Macy's and Starbucks and MLB and the airports all using this technology. So it's not going to be completely foreign to your users who are also going to be using it at your particular event. Some things to consider. Bluetooth does have to be on, and the location services do have to be on in order for it to work. And it is an all mobile app platform. So yeah, it's a plus and a minus both. We'd like it to be there for every one of them. You do need mobile app software. And that mobile app software will help protect the privacy, will help make the whole thing work, protect the security, etc. But you do need it. And it doesn't deliver content. All these things they're just dumb beacons. If they could deliver content, boy, I could think of a million other things we could do with these, but today it doesn't. I mentioned privacy and security, so I won't get into that again. And it's not 100%. It's only trends, right? If we're trying to capture sort of indoor location, we're trying to message market everybody, yeah, we're not able to do that. One of the things I did forget to mention on the message marketing side is we do have the ability, because of the mobile app software that we've developed, to specifically target those market messagings. So for example, if I buy widget A's and Carrie, who introduced me, buys widget B's, if she walks by a booth that sells widget B's, she would get a market message. If I walk by that same booth because I'm not interested in buying widget B's, I buy widget A's, I wouldn't get that market messaging. Now, obviously, you can open it up to everyone, but that's some of the things that we do by capturing people's profiles and their interests in what we're trying to do with our market messaging side. And I apologize I didn't mention that before. What does the future hold for this thing? It's growing quite rapidly. And one of the things from our standpoint that we're looking forward to is a little bit better management of the device, right? Sort of that clear channel to eliminate a lot of the interference and latency that we're kind of seeing out there. As I mentioned before, there's all kind of different variable things that can cause interference, and we try to eliminate that. And the actual operating systems themselves have some of that built into it, but I think that's going to get even better. It's also going to make it even easier to set up. Not that it's really hard today and maintenance of it, but it will. We are seeing different people who are developing platforms out there that we'll end up using that will help us to easier manage and set up these things and actually do the maintenance of them as well. Mobile payments were something that was introduced initially and then kind of pulled back. I still see it as something that they may want to do later on. Many of you don't use payments today at your events, but I could see this being one of the areas that it could actually enhance the event and allow different types of mobile payments, whether they're paying for sessions or whether they're paying for products on the show floor, if you allow that. But yeah, I could definitely see this being something with mobile payments that are there. But realistically, this is something that is anything that you could see centered around knowing the person's location is really what the future holds with this particular solution that's out there. So I hope I've given you guys enough information to help you think about how this could help and enhance your event. We are really strong on the product itself and the solution out there, and bringing to our customers a nice return on investment for using this particular product. It's not something that's expensive at all to get into. As a matter of fact, it could be absolutely no cost to you to use with us, depending on how you want to use it. So I encourage you, if you want to talk to our sales reps out there, we're happy to talk to you about the different solutions. But to give you an idea, I just saw a question pop up here about costs, and so just to give you an idea of solution with the cost on these things, the actual cost of the iBeacons themselves run anywhere from $5 up to $50. We let our customers purchase their own if they want to, or they can just get them from us. We provide them for free as part of the solution that we're putting out there. If you were doing something like market messaging, we have two options for you on the cost side. We can either share in revenue with you on the sponsorship and the market messaging side, so it would cost you actually nothing and setting that all up, or we can charge you a flat fee of like $500 per beacon to set that all up and provide everything that's out there. And of course, we discount off of that based on quantity and everything else that could be out there as well. So, and like we said, most of our customers are selling it for about $2,000, so it's a nice profit from your side. From that, I'm going to open it up to other questions, and there's a taskbar up at the top that has a little question, sort of like a chat symbol, if you will, and I'll read them off of there the best I can. So let's see, what do we have here? Do the messages come through as text messages? Will the system only send the message once as they walk by the beacon? That's a good question. Yep, and I didn't address that. So yes, the beacons are smart enough, or our software is smart enough to realize that they've already gotten that message and it's already pushed it out there once to them. If the message gets changed, however, we allow the organizers to change their messages twice a day. So essentially they could set it up in the, for example, in the registration area, where it would be a welcome message in the morning, and then in the evening, the message would change, and the user would actually get the second message that might say, hey, thanks for coming. Don't forget about our 6 o'clock happy hour at so-and-so, or the conference. So the messages can be checked to see if it's already hit, so they don't continue to get the same messages, and then it would change. If the message changed, it would actually push that out there. So the messages do come through as text messages. However, they could be electronic coupons. They can be a bunch of different things there. Again, it could be a link to hit audio. It could be a link to hit video. It could be just pushing you a document. So it doesn't have to be a text message, but that's one of the things that we do. Do attendees need to download the mobile app to view the information? Yes, the mobile app is one of the most important parts of this. It's one of the 4 features that are needed in order to make this solution work, because remember, the iBeacon is a dumb box that is just doing nothing but pushing out a number, a unique identifier number that triggers something inside the mobile app once it reads that identifier number. Do you have a guesstimate of how many people, what percentage of people keep Bluetooth turned on? That's a good question, and I didn't answer that in there. Yes, amazingly enough, it is over 80%. We've actually used beacon probes to go out there and measure that on the trade show floor. And like I said before, you know, people keep their Bluetooth turned on because today it really doesn't drain your battery like it used to before. So that's not one of the issues that you have any longer. You also have so many other products and services that use Bluetooth, whether it's, you know, speakers for your car, speakers for your house, you know, communicating and using a little Bluetooth headset for your phone. So people tend to just keep it on and never really turn it off. So the percentage is actually very high. It's over 80% that we found out there. And in some cases, we've been to events where we've pointed it out there to every single person, and you can point the probe at people of what we were trying to do, and we were seeing like in the high 90s. So to track what parts of the show floor get the most traffic and time of day flow could be the heaviest. Absolutely, yeah, that's the whole idea behind the traffic analysis piece we offer, is that it will track the entire floor if you have it set it up that way. It will be able to give you sort of a heat map of the area that shows where it's hottest in 15-minute intervals. You can look and play back and record and see all that. It records all that for you, so you can go back over it later on, or you can see it real time if you want to. But it does give you all that. I gave you the base cost, so I think we're set there. The no-cost option would only exist if we allow exhibitors to purchase correct. Yeah, so the idea here behind it is that it's built into all of our apps today, so it can be turned on in a moment's notice. We've actually had customers say, yep, I'm really interested in using it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell the sponsorships for it. And we tell them, listen, we simply need about a week's time before the actual event happens so we can get the iBeacons out to the exhibitors themselves to sell this if you want to. With our customers that are selling it as sponsorships, and whether we're sharing in revenue or whether they're paying us a flat fee for the beacon and the technology itself, we're also always giving them some to use in their pavilions and registration areas and wherever else that they want to use it as well. Do you have an estimate on how many attendees turn off location services? That's a good question. Having just been rolling this out for a little over a year now, most people are turning on that location services when they first open the app and it's asking that question. And I don't know the answer to whether they're doing that because they're anticipating the iBeacon solution happening because they're used to using it at, say, like Starbucks or Target or wherever they're going and they have other apps that are using it, or they just simply say yes to everything when it comes up and ask them the question. I really don't know, but we are finding that quite a few people are doing that. And thank you, Terry from NACDS. He used our iBeacon solution. It is annual in April, and they work great. I appreciate the feedback. What do you do for events locations that place multiple beacons on different floors? I have installed beacons on the first and third floors, and the third floor beacons reach the first floor, but the first floor beacons don't reach the third. Any way to limit the signal on the floor? Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we know about the beacons that we're using, and this may be something to do with some of the costs here, again, are the maintenance and the back end management of these devices and being able to tune them so that you don't have an issue with signals crossing each other. But even if they do, there's unique identifiers, so they really should be managing the application itself. The mobile application itself should be managing that and doing that. Happy to talk more detail with you on that if you'd like. That's Elena. Just give us a call, set up a meeting. Happy to dive into that more deeper if you'd like to. Do meeting attendees need to download a separate app to view this, or is it comparable with the core apps? It's built into our core apps meeting app. It's right inside there. They don't have to have a separate app to run this at all. It's already built into all of our technology, as well as our wayfinders. Do you have any information on the best location for actual iBeacons on the floor, high up, etc.? No, because one of the parts that I mentioned was the range is all around. So it's actually not just in around, it's actually above and below. The beacon just sort of spreads out completely, almost in the sense of if you think of a beacon that in nautical terms that just sends out a ping and that sound wave just goes everywhere. That's kind of how the beacon works as well. And hopefully that gives you that. What does the iBeacon reporting look like? Good question. We do capture stats on everything that we're doing. If you're looking at the market messaging side, it tells you how many of those signals got accepted, how many people opened them up and read them, and then if there's an action, a call to action on that, we also track all of that. Stats on indoor location, we don't really track there, but we do track stats for obviously traffic analytics and so forth. And then on the gamifications, we capture a lot of stats there with how many people are playing the game, completed it, got their tokens, etc. Suggested ways of incentivizing use of the mobile app, allowing the iBeacons. I can see my attendees becoming irritated by many messages a day. So that's one of the concerns that we have with the many messages a day. And that's why we built into our system the ability to target message people who are only interested in certain things, right? So I mentioned the whole thing about buying widget A's and buying widget B's. And if you're only interested in buying widget A's, you only get the message. Excuse me. But with regards to the actual incentive to using the mobile app. You know, we always say, listen, offer a prize. People will do anything for an iPad. It's amazing, and they're not that expensive at about 400, bucks a pop, to getting that done, to getting your message that's out there. There's many ways that we can do that so that that's incentivized, that when they open the app and they do that and fill out their profile information and use it, we can track that and come up with who the winner is, to be able to provide that. But going back to that messaging again, target messaging is the key to that. Also, the fact that you're only getting the message, if you've got hit with the message once, you're not going to get hit with the message a second time. Now, maybe the second day you would get hit with another message, but only once a day. And I hope that that is an answer, because we really don't want to irritate people so that they turn it off. The idea is just that it's really supposed to enhance their experience, not deter it. Will this work with the Apple Watch? Yes, Apple Watches actually have that built into it. And I've actually seen it working on an Apple Watch. My son has one, and we actually played around with it, and it worked really well. So does the app need to be running or simply downloaded for this to work? You need to open it up. You need to turn on location services and Bluetooth. The app itself doesn't really need to be running. It will still give you that message whether you're in it or not. The way that we built it on our side was just like, if you guys, for some of you who know about our target alerts, if the app is closed, even though they've opened it one time and agreed to everything, they'll still get that target message that's there. And I think I have answered all of your questions. Are there any more? I appreciate you all being here today. I thank you for making this first one out that we've done very successful. I hope that it's been informative. If there's anything that I left off or you come up with later on down the road, because this is an ever-evolving technology, please, my email is real simple. It's j@core-apps.com. I'm always happy to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I have great technical minds behind me that do and can help me with that, and I'll be happy to do anything there. Yes, this webinar will be available for reference. We are recording it, and it'll be up on our website. Please make sure that you get your information to Kerry, that's Kerri, at core-apps.com, so we can send out the iBeacon for attending. We appreciate you being here today. And if any of you have any suggestions on future webinars that you'd like us to do on technology in the industry, if I don't know it, I'm certain that I know consultants who do, and I'm happy to bring them in and do a webinar for you so that we can help you enhance your experience and your events. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.